Now look, you guys, I'm not above it. Below this steel exterior, grimdark heart, there is a softie just waiting to be penetrated. And there are a few books that have done it. Now, these are some books that maybe missed up a little bit, which I'm counting. And then there's been some ones that have straight up made me ugly cry. So let's let's talk about them. Hey, what's up, bookworms and ball babies? Mike here today to talk about some books that really stabbed me in the heart one way or another and might have actually pulled a little bit of water from the eyes because, guys, I can tell you, yeah, it's happened a few times. I'm not the Mr. Tough guy. I am sitting here and be like, nothing has ever made me cry. Look, I cry watching Disney movies with the kids sometimes, so I have no problems admitting this. No regrets, no shame. And sometimes a book can hit you in just the right place at just the right time, and it will have some sort of emotional reaction from you, be it for something that you've experienced in your life or just you're so invested in a world and the characters, and it just kind of happens that way. And I'm going to talk about those now. Now, I'm not going to be doing like a ranking or anything like that. Definitely not doing a tier list. What I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of break it into categories of, how do I put this? There are certain things that will make me emotional that isn't always just, oh, a character died, or, he loved her and she didn't love him back, or something like that. There are different factors at play when it comes into getting those type of emotions out of me. So I'm going to kind of break it into those categories, and they're going to be Journey's End, they're going to be Homecoming and Homesickness, things that hit me hard as a parent, love tragedy and love lost, saying goodbye to friends or loved ones, and of course, death and loss, that being usually the big one for most people. So let's get into each of those categories. Now let's start with Journey's End. Nothing will get tears out of me quicker than a long journey coming to an end. It's just kind of one of those things, the culmination of what it took to get there, the road traveled, will start to catch me when I get in those last few chapters of a long series. And that begins by talking about the unifying force. This is from Star Wars, The New Jedi Order. And I think the reason that this really caught me is it really felt like the end. It felt like these were the characters from the original trilogy. It was kind of the last time they were all going to be together because they were kind of going their own ways at the end of that. It really felt like the end of that era. I know that there was Legacy of the Force and Fate of the Jedi after that, and they were okay. But for me, when I first read The Unifying Force, I was not okay because it was mostly a happy ending. I'm not going to say that, but it took so long to get there. It was a 19-book series, and I'd read all the Thrawn stuff. I read everything basically except the X-Wing stuff in the EU leading up to that point. So it was just years and years of Star Wars EU books, and just getting there, it really felt like the end for me. So that's one that really got me. Another one similar with The Journey's End was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Laugh all you want. I don't care, guys. Everybody likes to have the revisionist history on Harry Potter now. But, when you were part of that, when it was right in the zeitgeist of American culture, I assume it was worldwide, but all I can say is from American culture is, dude, the world stopped for a book when that book came out because no one wanted to be spoiled. There was standing lines at every bookstore. I was stood in a line at a Walmart for like 3 hours to get my copy at midnight that night. That'll never happen again. You can talk about, oh, well, if you put out another Kingkiller book, bullshit. The world's not going to stop for another Kingkiller book. It won't stop for another Game of Thrones book, guys. That will never happen again. I'm sorry, it won't. Not in our lifetimes. So the historical significance there, but again, the journey, those last 100 pages or so of Harry Potter Deathly Hallows was just, I was a wreck because it was like, wow, this is really ending. It really just feels like the end of an era. And it didn't help that there was some emotional stuff going on in the book at the time. But yeah, I will never shy away from that one. Really did pull the tears from me, as did Return of the King. Now, look, I was like 11 when I read that, so don't get mad at me there. Again, this is just the Journey's End. Gandalf talking to the hobbits at the Grey Havens is just, I will not tell you not to weep, for not all tears are an evil. Just man, water flow reading that, because it really, you had seen these characters who just went to hell and back together and saying goodbye. Just, the ultimate journey's end. As was A Memory of Light. I read that last year. That is the last book in the Wheel of Time. And my wife will kind of vouch for this, is that I had to stop reading like 3 times when I was about 50 pages from the end, because I had to get tissues because I couldn't see to keep reading. Because it was just like, oh my God, I've been reading this for, a year plus. And I always had that feeling of, the next book's there. I can always get the next book. And it just hit me all at once that, wow, this is really it. I feel like I know these characters like their family at this point, just because this series is so long. And these characters are so well developed that you really still feel like you know them inside and out. So yeah, it was a tough ending for me. Even if I thought that the book wasn't my favorite Wheel of Time book, it definitely, it pulled the emotion out of me like nothing else did in that series for the whole run. Except maybe one character death, but that's a discussion for another time. Let's move along to the next category, which is homecoming/homesickness. This is a character returning home or missing home. I have to go with one that was very personal to me, and I talked about it when I reviewed The Breathing Method by Stephen King. That is the 4th story in his Different Seasons collection. And the reason that hit me was I was 15 years old. I had just moved to Houston. I knew no one. So I was already very, very homesick. I had basically been in Houston for like 2 months. I still missed Atlanta. That's where I moved from. And all my friends were there. I felt like I didn't know anybody. I just kind of buried my nose in books, the library, because that's a huge life change for you, right? And he has a passage in there about homesickness being a real sickness, and it just absolutely resonated at the perfect time for me. And I just bawled reading it because it was true with what was going on in my life. As did something with Golden Sun by Pierce Brown. A lot of people think I'm talking about the ending, but no, this is when Darrow returns to Lycos, when he's got the new appearance and his mother recognizes him. But it's a whole thing about homecoming in a way that this kind of hit me when I went back about 6 months before I read that. My father had passed away, and I went to Atlanta for his funeral. And I went thinking about all this stuff, like when you're a younger man and you think that's your whole world. You look at your hometown that you grew up in as like just this huge, massive thing. And you go back and you realize everything's just really small and it's just normal. You romanticize it a lot. And it really kind of clicked for me that, wow, it's just a place, it's just, I don't know. So when I read that so soon after my father had passed away, it was not just the reunion with his family, but the just realizing that, home is what you make it, sure, but it's also probably not quite this romanticized idea that you have of it. Now, the next category is kind of a personal thing for me. And that's because once you have kids, guys, now at least this is for me, I'm speaking for myself here. Once you have kids, you find yourself getting emotional about what I call dad shit. Anything that is a father and a son. Like, I remember the people used to say, oh, Field of Dreams, that movie will make you bawl your eyes out. And I watched it and I was like, no, it's just a good baseball movie. I watched it after having a kid and I bawled my eyes out. So all of a sudden you change a little bit once you have kids. And when you are a parent, certain things that happen in books will definitely get to you. And I can't think of anything that got me more than Pet Sematary. You want to talk about dealing with something that is the ultimate nightmare for a parent, losing a child. Wow. Read it when I was 15 and just thought it was a really good horror book. Read it when I was 37, 38 and devastated. There's a passage after his son passes away in that book where King basically tells you for about 4, 5, maybe 6 pages about what this character's life would have been had he lived, and then realizing, but none of this is going to happen. Oh my God. Oh God, just absolutely destroyed me as a parent. So yeah, very, very different thoughts. Same with The Road by Cormac McCarthy. I didn't think that was going to be anything that really got to me, but then I read it after I'd had my first son. And you just know that feeling of there's nothing you wouldn't do for your kid. You would lay down your life without a second thought for your child. And that book really, really struck that home. And I think that so many things have kind of copied the road. I say all the time that I feel like The Last of Us just basically read that book and said, let's make a video game off of it, with more to it than that. But I'm saying that's that feeling that, I mean, I like the game. That's one of the reasons I like it, because it does feel like a video game adaptation of the long road, or just the road. It's something. It's really something. Then there's one, and this is one of the ones where I say I just kind of messed it up, but I feel like it counts because I was there. I was ready. To. No tear rolled, but it was there. It was hanging on to the eyelashes there. This was Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb, and the whole parent thing in this is there is a character who cannot have children. And, you know, she's talking to this other character who basically says, you should have been mine. And my heart broke for this lady like you can't imagine. I'm trying to be somewhat vague about this in case you guys don't want spoiler, but kind of have to talk about something here. But yeah, I had heard before I started Robin Hobb that she was going to break your heart. So I didn't expect it in the first like 300 pages of the first book. But yeah, it was very, very, very tough to read. Let's talk about some love tragedy / love lost. Now this is either you know, things just don't work out, or you know, characters just don't end up getting together. First I got is 11/22/63 by Stephen King. You look at the hardcover I got there, I could open up the final pages and show you the tear stains. Reading those last pages with Jake and Sadie, oh my God, it is the most beautiful and heartbreaking ending I have ever read in a Stephen King book. So all the people who say Stephen King can't write an ending, they didn't read that one, because oh my God, it is an emotional powerhouse. It was the kind of thing that I didn't think Stephen King had in him. Just clearly a hopeless romantic at heart. And the ending of that will just absolutely floor you. And as many problems as people had with the 11/22/63 adaptation that they did on Hulu, my wife cried her eyes out at the end of that. So I felt like they nailed it just right. And yeah, that ending is one of the most soul-crushing endings you will ever read. But it is absolutely gorgeous too. It really, really is. My other one is Gone with the Wind. Now, with Gone with the Wind, is you got Rhett and you got Scarlett, and you know, it's you ever know like those two people who are absolutely magnetic to each other. They are so drawn to one another. They can't live with each other. They can't live without each other. But when they're together, they're absolute chaos. That is Gone with the Wind to a T. Rhett and Scarlett are both alpha personalities, so it was just so tough for them to make it work. And then you go back into that whole thing. There's some stuff with As a Parent that I would put this one in as well, where they have some tragedy that way, and it's just you keep rooting for these kids to work it out, and it just everything just seems to be plotting against them, and it just never quite happens the way that you want. So I know people have a lot of opinions about Gone with the Wind, but that book will always have a lasting cut on my heart for the way that it ends, because this close, you guys. It was this close. It was so close. Let's talk about some saying goodbye to friends and loved ones. This isn't always just death. You know, sometimes your life's just going in a different direction. You're at a crossroads and your friends got to go that way. You got to go this way. So you got to say goodbye. Sometimes it's forced. Sometimes it's natural. Sometimes it's supernatural. And I'm talking, of course, about Stephen King's It. The ending of It is so damn bittersweet, because kind of what I said about Frodo and the boys, about how they just went to hell together and back. In It, they do that twice. They face down hell twice together, and then they basically get to the point where they realize they're not going to remember each other. So they've done all this stuff together, and then they're not going to remember each other very, very soon. And then to me, it's just like, these are lifelong friends, and they're not going to remember what happened. Oh my God, just devastating. King did this to me twice, man. And then we got C.S. Lewis, Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Now again, this is one of those where I was very young, but I'm sure it would probably get me again today. And this is Reepicheep saying goodbye on the beach there in Voyage of the Dawn Treader. As a kid, Reepicheep was the coolest cat in the world, man. I mean, he was just awesome. He was everything I wanted out of Redwall characters, was Reepicheep, right? So that scene just absolutely crushed me as a kid, and it's one of those things I'll never forget. And you know, I started rereading Narnia like last year, 2 years ago, And I only got as far as Prince Caspian because I knew it was coming in Don Shredder. And I was afraid to face it. But yeah, just a beautiful, if not bittersweet goodbye that just... I'll never forget it. Then you got the granddaddy of all these, and that, of course, is death and loss. This could be quite long, and I'll go ahead and tell you guys, there's no Joe Abercrombie on here, in case you're wondering. I think with Joe Abercrombie is, I came to expect that from him. I came to expect, okay, this is Grimdark, there's going to be characters that I lose. So really with Grimdark, I don't have a lot of it on here because I expect these things to happen. When a character death is shocking and just surprising and heartbreaking, and it's earned, that's kind of what I remember. But that's not meant as a distraction to anything Abercrombie. Obviously, I mean, it's my second favorite author working right now, so I definitely don't mean it that way. But say that's why it's not on here. But what is on here is Ruin by John Gwynne. You know, it's a cheat code. Hurting Animals. Hurting Animals is always going to be a cheat code for me when it comes to getting right to cutting you in the heart. But yeah. The ending of Ruin, that is more than just a clever name for that book because it will absolutely ruin you. I was blowing through those books like one a week, and I had to take like a month off before I started book 4 because the ending of 3 was just so devastating. And that was when I first learned that John Gwynne, the nicest man in the world, but oh my God, he is an assassin, baby. He will not give a damn about your feelings at all. In fact, I'm pretty sure he gets power off of them. Then I got Battleground by Jim Butcher. Look, there are so many moments in Dresden Files that had me this close, and I never quite pushed me over. And then the one in Battleground that most of us saw coming. But the way that Jim wrote it, he got me. He got me twice in this book. Like, I was reading it, and that second my wife looks over and she goes, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not." So yeah, Jim finally got me in book number 17 of a series. But there are numerous moments in that series that could get you. But that was the one that really finally pushed me over the edge where I actually had to go and get a Kleenex and wipe my eyes a little bit. So good on you, Jim. You finally got me. Next one, A Storm of Swords. George R.R. Martin. You have to understand, guys, I read this book when I was like 20. I had never read anything except traditional fantasy at this point. Song of Ice and Fire was the first time I branched out in anything grimdark or just dark fantasy. I was not used to things like what George wrote. I felt like every time I thought, okay, well, he killed this character off to set this character up to have their moments. Good old Red Wedding, A Storm of Swords, man, absolutely cut me like you can't imagine. And I mean, if you didn't read it, first time you saw it was on the TV show, it probably got you then too. Well, imagine reading that. I was so mentally exhausted after I read that chapter. I just put it down and just like blankly stared at the wall for like 3 minutes, and then I was like, I think I should probably go eat something. I mean, it really is the kind of thing like, then you're like the rest of your day, everything you're doing, you're just kind of like. You're just kind of like staring off into space. Yeah, that's what that was like for me. But yeah, and what they did to poor Greywind in that too. It's just, oh my God, George is just he's evil. He's ruthless. He is ruthless. Now, if I had to pick a #1 book here, this is the last one. If I had to pick a #1 on something like this, this is it. Because look, I'm gonna try to make it through it without even crying, just talking about it. Because just talking about this book will get me emotional. I'm talking about Where the Red Fern Grows. This is the most heartbreaking book. They made us read this in 7th grade, and the entire classroom was crying because we were reading it out loud. I don't even know what else to say besides this will leave an impression on your heart and your memory that you'll never, ever forget. I don't care if you're an animal lover or not. It is just... yeah, Sam. See? Huh? It really is just a gorgeous book that's just absolutely brutal. And if you've ever had a dog, it's a tough read, man. It really, really is. But it's definitely something that I cannot recommend enough. I just don't have the heart to reread it because it crushed my life like almost 30 years ago now. And yeah, I still get emotional just talking about it. It's just, It's such a well-written book, though. It really is a true American classic. I didn't talk about it in my 14 classics that I love because I knew I'd get like this if I tried. But yeah, it's absolutely a book I would give the highest recommendation to. And basically, if you're worried that you're dead inside, that's the book to read and find out. Because yeah, that one, if that can't get you, nothing in the written word will be able to get you. So guys, what are some books that have left some imprints on your heart and have really let loose the salt water from the eyes? You know, there are no wrong answers, guys. Everything is going to hit someone else differently. It doesn't matter what it is. You could say it's you could say it's Twilight. It doesn't matter. What matters is what it did to you, man. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. So don't be shy. Don't be scared. Drop in the comments and let me know. If you read any of these, let me know if they hit you the way that they hit me, or let me know what hits you, and I might consider checking those out. So thanks for watching, guys. I will dry my eyes now and talk to you in the comments.